Hey guys, welcome to another Fact Friday, and as you may have noticed from the title, this week's going to be a little bit different. This is a recorded chat I had with a man named Jace. Jace had gastric band surgery, and throughout this video we talked about what led him to that decision, what the process was like in preparation, what he went through, and the aftercare. And that's about where I came in a little bit as well to the story. Jace was a wonderful person to talk to. He was really open and honest. Keep in mind when you watch this video, guys, that we are not medical professionals and you should always listen to them way ahead of us. But this is a first-hand account and I think it can be useful at whether you're considering having the surgery or if you just want to know more about it. Mr. Jace, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
That's all right, man. Why don't you get us started and give us a little bit of background on yourself, who you are, and what your life has sort of been like and led you to here, being in front of me on the camera.
All right. So, yeah, the name's Jace. Some people on socials know me as lunchbox 651. I'm like an IT professional as far as careers go. And I guess what led me here is weight loss journey, I've gone through quite a lot to get where I am and not to be so spherical. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
I love that, spherical. What a choice of descriptive words. I like it. Okay, man. So there will be an intro to the video and all that stuff, so people will know what they're watching, and we'll click on it for that purpose, presumably. But your weight loss journey is not the standard Instagram one that we will see. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay. So my weight loss journey, I guess, because I've always been like a bigger dude, it's been a lifelong thing to try and get down to a normal size. Yeah, so I ended up going with a surgical option. That's what worked for me. I had what they call a gastric sleeve surgery, or a vertical sleeve gastrectomy, I believe the other term is.
Yep.
And since then, that was about 10 months ago now, I've now lost 52 kilos. So yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at.
That's awesome. Okay, so you mentioned you've always been a bigger guy. And you work in IT, so you think that you've just always been driven to sort of a low activity level, and like what led you to that that's your body?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot that goes into it for myself. But there's things like, I've always been a gamer. I've always been into computers and stuff like that. I've never really, aside from like inline skating, which I used to do in my teens, I've never really been into very high activity things. And it's purely just about, my enjoyment and things. And there was never any high activity stuff. And my knowledge of nutrition was absolutely atrocious. Like, I did not really understand what I should and should not be eating. I assumed, provided it did not come from a fast food restaurant, then it was perfectly okay to eat at any point in time.
Yeah.
So, I'd have, just a steak by itself, drenched in oil and whatnot. And, that's a healthy dinner. And like, for some people it might be, but the way I ate was not good. And so, yeah, that sort of got me to where I am. I also never weighed myself. So that was a thing that I always avoided.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just, for lack of a better term, it ballooned over time.
That was a cool part. It's okay. So I don't want to summarize your whole life story in a horrible way, but so the main ones there, I think we got like a lack of knowledge, both in nutrition and some other things there. And you did mention something I think is important for people to understand. You're not a lazy human being, but your interests don't lie in those places where you would see yourself expelling calories and that sort of thing. Like you're drawn to more seated things, sedentary lifestyle, that sort of thing. But it's not because you're lazy or couldn't be bothered to take care of yourself. You just didn't know about it, and you weren't drawn to the things that maybe would have helped out with that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's it.
Yeah, which is a good point, because I think a lot of people get labeled as, if they have any sort of excess weight, whether it be a little bit or a lot, as lazy. And that's horrifically unfair, and something I encounter all the time, whether people are a little bit overweight or very overweight, they're always worried. I get all this, I didn't really mean to get here. I don't know how it happened. And this worry that they're going to be labeled, and that's really not the case. In most people, I think, knowledge is a big one. As you mentioned, you had no knowledge of your weight at any given point because you don't weigh yourself. So you're not collecting that data. You have no nutritional knowledge, which I think is a huge thing these days, especially with misinformation flying around every angle.
Yeah, definitely.
And then, just no interest in activity, things that probably would have helped you out. All right. So you get to this point where you go, I'm done with this. You probably tried a few things along the way, right? Like this probably wasn't your first stop.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess, I've tried all sorts of diets, but this sort of stems back to the whole, I had no concept about nutrition. So just thinking back on it, I remember trying like a no added sugar diet, where basically anything that had sugar as an ingredient, I would not consume it.
Right.
So I did that for like a month, and I think I actually gained weight.
I think that's actually, I just remembered sort of an important little fact about you that could also help people understand this not lazy, lack of information sort of route that we're taking here. You also don't drink either, do you?
No, I gave up drinking just before my 18th birthday.
We'll just skip over the legality of that. But yeah, like, so you didn't drink, you weren't just like, and you didn't eat fast food all that much. Like you said, you chose options that were not fast food, but necessarily not necessarily in line with what we would consider health food. But you thought it's not fast food, so that's good.
Yeah.
And you didn't drink. Like there aren't many reasons that are the obvious ones that spring to everyone's mind when we say someone's overweight. Like, okay, so I don't want to interrupt you anymore there. So you tried a few things. You tried no sugar.
Yep.
No added sugar.
Yeah, no added sugar. Because no sugar, I'd just die. But
most of us would, don't worry. We don't want scurvy from lack of fruit.
But then I remember trying with my ex-girlfriend that Herbalife thing. And as far as I'm aware now, it's like an MLM, and basically all it's trying to do is ruin your diet and make you drink a lot of water.
I try to take a soft approach to these things, so I'll give my little take on that one. I don't loathe any of their products because I haven't looked into them overly intricately. Maybe they're good, maybe they're trash. I really don't know. What I do know is anyone giving out advice, and they give out strong advice, the people in those, because as you said, it's an MML business, so these people make their money only by selling. They're not qualified to help you out at all. Like their dietary knowledge is just what the person who recruited them has taught them, which they're a salesman as well. So it's just this chain of people who want you to buy their product at all costs, which, like I said, I didn't investigate the products. I have my suspicions, but okay, Herbalife, what's after that? Because I imagine it just didn't work.
Yeah, no, but I stuck with that one for months, and just trying to think of other ones that I've done, because that was quite a while ago. I can't even remember. I know I temporarily, with my wife, we gave up meat early, like just as this is before I went vegan, because as you may mention at some point, I am now vegan. But before then, we tried reducing our meat intake and stuff like that. That really didn't make it any.
And initially, was that an attempt to control your diet, or is that the compassionate reasons that you follow today?
No, so that completely separate from the whole vegan ideal. Partly financial, partly health related.
Yeah, okay.
Because,
cool.
Trying things like nut meat was actually super cheap. We tried a little bit, didn't seem to make much of a difference. But one of the big things I always found was that, like, I hated weighing myself, so I just never weighed myself. So I never saw tangible results at any point. So it was so easy to just give up on it and be like, no, I'm done.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, thank you for the insight into just some things you try. I'm sure they'll resonate with some people who've also tried them or similar ideas. So then and you're a pretty progressive guy when it comes to technology. Obviously, you work in IT, so I can imagine that the concept of a surgical intervention would came up to you, and you weren't super hesitant. You may have a different approach to what some people might consider. So how does this thought enter your brain and become something you want to act on?
Okay, so I got to give all the credit to my wife, really. So when we first met and we were just dating, she mentioned that she always wanted to have this particular surgery. And, at first, you just think of it, oh, yeah, this is a pipe dream. It's, $800 trillion. I'll never be able to afford it, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, it just was completely outside the scope of what I would consider as far as cost goes. But thinking about it from like a personal perspective, I have no issue at all with surgical intervention. Like, I'm a guy who's bifurcated his tongue. I've got magnets implanted in my hands. Like, I'm good to party with a scalpel. But so there was no issues from that perspective. It was purely just money, like finances, holding me back originally. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So, you met your wife, or you with your wife, and she mentions this is something she wants to work on. What's the tipping point?
So the tipping point. So after we both went vegan, or I went vegan, she went vegetarian at first. I was like, well, we're cooking nearly all of our food because finding vegan options that you can order from restaurants and stuff like that is an absolute nightmare. Or
yeah, I mean, there are a few more options out there these days, which is cool because we're seeing a lot of change in that. So it's just less. It's cool for people, more for people rather. And I think it's an important point to just say, like, you chose that for compassionate and ethical reasons.
Yeah. Initially, like, that was the tipping point. So it was a documentary that pushed me over the edge. Like, I watched the documentary within 24 hours. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Thinking about it, and it was environmental impacts as well as like a compassionate reason for it.
Cool.
And it was just a cumulative thing. But after we went and gave up meat, I realized that I was eating much healthier. There was a lot more fruit and veg in my diet and stuff like that. But I didn't seem to be shifting weight at all. And one thing I did realize is that instead of replacing, meat with good food and just calling it good, I was actually increasing my dietary intake. So, like, instead of having, a bowl of spaghetti bolognese, I would have 2 bowls of spaghetti bolognese, and my portion control was just going insane.
Wow. Yeah. And that's there's probably multiple factors in there, and I'm not going to just pull it down to one thing, like, oh, you're not having animal, so that's it. It's, I mean, you probably consuming less protein overall without knowing, because you said your nutritional knowledge was low, and that's a very satiating thing you can have, so it makes you feel fuller for longer. So if that drops, you're going to eat more. Experiencing new flavors and wanting to cook and wanting to enjoy them probably as well, so that's a factor. And then you find it's actually good and you go, oh my god, I want to have more of that. What else? Do you have more to add to that one?
So I think you're sort of right, is that was sort of a big part of it. I was enjoying what I was cooking, but also with this lack of nutritional knowledge, I was also like, well, I'm hungry, therefore I will eat, and I will just make whatever, as long as it follows, my ethical boundaries.
Mm.
I'll just cook whatever, and if I'm hungry, I'll eat. And it's healthy because vegetables, right?
Right.
Not
So
quite how it works, but you know.
no. So okay. So you switch to a vegan diet and you don't see a change in weight at all. So you
Yeah,
recognize that there's a problem there, or that there's something still standing in the way after this pretty drastic shift, I imagine.
yeah, exactly. And then coincidentally, I had just before going vegan at my work, they um, promoted me, and with my promotion, I got like work subsidized private health insurance. So basically, they pay for a large portion of gold level private health insurance for myself and my wife.
Oh, cool.
And so with that, I was like, oh, I wonder what it covers. And you just go through the coverage. Sure enough, bariatric surgery was on there. And I was like, whoa.
So for just everyone's knowledge, do you have the prices of both, like what it would cost if you didn't have that and what it would cost with? I can look it up later and just sort of insert it, but I'm just curious if you know.
So I have rough guides off the top of my head. I know with my private health insurance, it was $5,000 for the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And this does depend on surgeon, but it is always very close to that with private health insurance.
Yep.
And then there's like about $300 in consultation fees beforehand. And then obviously hospital cover depends on your private health and stuff like that. But as far as no private health cover, I believe it's somewhere between 15 to 25,000.
Okay.
You can get it done on Medicare, but your wait time can be like 5 years plus.
Yeah.
Like some people can be
Right.
waiting an eternity.
Which is a bit of a shame, because some of the people who this might be appropriate for are, I mean, it's not to be insulting, but a lot of the weight problems in the obese population do tend to be in that lower income bracket.
Yeah.
So that is really unfortunate, because it is an option that could be there for them.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that was sort of it for me.
Cool. So yeah, you switch over to private health. You get awesome. So you go, sweet. Well, you've got no issue with surgery. What you've been doing isn't working. Your wife's wanted this for a while. So you jump on in. So how does the process get started there? Who do you see first? Who gets that ball rolling? And then what other people need to be involved?
Yeah, sure. So the next step is we had an appointment with GP. I walk in, I have a chat to him. I say, I'm considering a gastric sleeve surgery. We have a bit of a discussion back and forth. He's like, what have you tried? Go through all the same sort of stuff I did with you. And he's like, okay, well, let's see how tall you are, weigh you, and then we'll get your BMI and sort of figure this out. I had a BMI of, I think, 45, if memory serves. And that well puts me in the class of I can have surgical intervention. And so he wrote up a referral. From there, we went and I think, yeah, straight from there, it's you arrange a booking with the surgeon. So I arranged my booking, had a consultation with him. We discussed all surgical options, and we settled on gastric sleeve. Like there are a few different variants. There's also a gastric bypass.
Yep.
And yeah, the sleeve was considered the best option for me, just based on my lifestyle and the fact that I have no existing acid reflux issues, which is usually why they'll go all the way to a bypass. And then from there, it's a discussion with a dietitian who's all sort of on board with the surgeon team.
Okay, so this isn't someone who's just separate from this. They're not going to be like, no, just come to my services. They're someone who's on board with how to help you through this whole thing.
Yeah, so they're part of that bariatric team at the hospital that I was dealing with, and had a discussion with them. Then from there, they send out, reading materials. We book in for the appointment, for the actual surgery, and we had like some goals to meet, and that then leads into what we call a pre-op diet, which is you have to go on a strict diet to reduce weight before your surgery, just to make the process a lot easier for the surgeon.
All right, yeah, that's awesome. So dietitian and then a couple of specialists there, the surgeon and the doctor that you saw initially as well, who was that wasn't the surgeon, that was someone separate?
Yeah, so I was a doctor first, then surgeon, then
Yep.
dietitian.
Yeah, cool. All right. So you go through your pre-diet and then you have your surgery. Did they talk to you about the aftercare beforehand, or were they like, let's just do this step at a time?
So the aftercare is sort of covered. Like they give you this big thick book, and it sort of goes through like what to expect, what the complications of surgery are, what you need to do for your pre-op diet, why you need to do it for your pre-op diet, what actually happens with the surgery, and all that sort of
And was
stuff.
it quite engaging, or was it a little bit like the terms and conditions of anything?
Um, I guess it depends on your definition of engaging, right? Like,
As someone who wants the surgery, do you feel compelled to read it, or did you feel like it could have been more helpful?
uh, it, like I definitely felt compelled to read it. Both my wife and I read it cover to cover. Um, I'm a bit of a stickler for making sure I actually follow aftercare because, the last thing I want is for them to have to open me up again and fix me up because I've done something stupid.
Yep.
Um,
Well, someone with tattoos and other cosmetic surgeries and stuff like that, you're probably very well acquainted with. Do it right, otherwise it could go very wrong.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, cool. All right. So you have surgery. What's immediate there? So it will run us through the experience of surgery as well, because there are probably some people a bit curious about that.
Okay. So, well, I guess we start with pre-op as well. So,
Yep.
you have to go on a very strict diet. It's a VLCD diet, so very low calorie. And so it's basically you live on shakes, and I think you've got to get about 80 grams of protein in a day, or at least I did.
And
And
sorry, if you don't mind, how heavy were you at that stage?
I was 136.6 kilos.
So it's yeah, so it's not even a gram per body per kilo. So it's an ambitious goal for someone who is vegan and not used to tracking their protein at all. But it's not all that much. And for reference, just for the video's sake, if you're not vegan, about a chicken breast is somewhere between 22 and 25 grams. So it's quite a lot to eat for someone who is vegan, because vegan portions tend to be a little bit lower as well. So that would have been your first hurdle, I imagine, just getting told 80 grams of protein every day.
I actually like the protein wasn't too difficult for me. Um, the the rest of it was. I found that I hit my 80 grams okay, purely off like very heavy like tofu meals or using TVP. I'm not
Yep.
sure if you're familiar with it, but it's
Yeah.
basically soy meal, and it's pretty dense in protein. And it's a good mince replacement. So, spaghetti bolognese again.
Yeah. What's
but
Chase's favorite meal?
but again, I couldn't actually have spaghetti bolognese because you can't have like high carb foods
Yes.
because it's very low calorie.
Yeah, they're calorie dense. Right. So you're just having the
So,
mince and the tomato.
yeah, pretty much. And so, yeah, it was a bit difficult to get through from that perspective. The protein wasn't too difficult for me, might be for other people. I can't really say. Then we get to surgery day. You go in, you prep for surgery, I guess, like you would any other time. You get all gowned up and you go in, you just go under, and I wake up in excruciating pain. So
Yay.
one of the things they do when you have your surgery is they I think it's within your actual abdomen, they fill it with gas to make it easier to cut around and stuff like that. I don't know the specifics. I'm not a surgeon, so I'm sorry
Yep.
to any surgeons
That's
that see this. And
That's okay. I think the people listening to this don't need the full technical part of it. They just need your experience. Is sort of what we're running off here. So
yeah, so well, it's sort of leading into the next bit, and that is gas pain. So when I say gas pain, doesn't mean that I need to rip a mean fart. It's this horrible pain that you get, and it's usually in like your left shoulder. No idea why it's left shoulder, but it's because of the gas they put inside, and it's just agony. I woke up and I thought I was dying. They had to give me like liquid morphine. I was like, this is hell. But after I woke up after that, after passing out with the morphine, I was good. From there, it was just random pain from all the stitches and stuff. But it was pretty good for that. And then 2 days later, I was out of hospital and moving around.
And what was the immediate diet within those 2 days at hospital and then following straight away?
Yep, all liquids.
All liquids.
So yeah, basically at this point you could ditch the protein because there's no way you're even meeting calorie goals. So you're at a massive calorie deficit at this point.
Yep.
So it's just about getting fluids in, making sure that you're getting all your nutrients, but not fixating on macros or anything like that at that point. So it's just liquids.
Yeah, cool. Just getting food, just getting substance.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool. All right. So then they've obviously talked to you a little bit beforehand. They gave you the big book. What's the aftercare like from that point forward? Because that's about when you, I can't remember how, I don't know if you made a post about it and I contacted you or something, but like there's a little bit of the story here where I get to come in a little bit.
Yeah. So I think you came in a bit after surgery, but it was, I think I was, nearly back to normal foods by the time we started discussing.
Yeah.
But basically after the liquid phase, it sort of goes progressively more solid. So you then move to puree. So you can then have solid things, but they have to be mush.
It's like being a baby again.
It really, no. Do not say it's wicked. Trust me, it is. It's not a fun experience. I think it was 2 weeks that we were on puree. And
okay, that's a bit too long. Like a day.
Yeah, a day would have been fine. But like you're starting to work with things, you're like, okay, well, we could puree this and this could be delicious. And we did things like we tried a casserole of some sort. I can't remember, but the taste of it was delicious. But the fact that we had it all just ground to a paste made it just a horrible texture. And we were so divided about it because the flavor was good, the texture was terrible. And that can pretty much sum up everything through that phase.
Yeah.
But
oh no. For every meal just being like, oh dear, what's this gonna be?
Yeah, so that was pretty much puree phase. And then you move to soft foods, which is sort of a little bit more firm, but something that you can break off with a fork. So think like scrambled eggs and stuff like that, some around that consistency. And that was where it was getting easier to actually eat foods and stuff. And that's probably around where we got in contact.
Yeah, cool.
I think it was, I posted a picture of me doing a Slav squat down at a field when I was taking the dog for a walk. And you reached out and you were like, something about my technique. And
I think I was trying to be kind. It wasn't just like, hey, you suck, let me help.
Yeah, that's worth clarifying.
I have to probably seek that out and find out what the original post was there. But yeah, I do remember seeing that, and you were like, now I'm going to get into the exercise thing. And I was like, well, that's not how.
To be fair, that was mostly just making fun of like the Slav squat memes.
That's fine.
But yeah.
Cool. So as part of your aftercare, so did the dietitian follow you forwards straight after surgery and guide that whole?
There was one thing that I should have mentioned as well with aftercare. Changing dressings a lot. That was a thing that you had to do. And giving yourself injections of Clexane as well to stop blood clotting. So you had to stab yourself in the stomach with a needle every day, I think it was, for 2 weeks.
Yeah, and
that was fun.
But you and your wife went through this together as well, so you were probably somewhat helping each other out with some of those things, I imagine, which is pretty cool. But it's important for people to understand that this is part of it. Yeah,
and I thought I should mention that because it does it might reflect on whether someone's actually willing to do it, because stabbing yourself in the stomach isn't the most fun experience.
No, and just to clarify real quick, they would have given you an idea. What was your sort of predictions in terms of weight loss as well?
Yeah, so that's actually a bit of an interesting one. So we discussed it, and the surgeon, I think he was being very broad as to not, give high hopes, because not everyone's going to have the same impact, but
being a little bit conservative.
Yeah. So he estimated that I would end up at about 100 kilos or so. I think he said it was about 65% of excess weight was what he expected to lose.
Within a time frame?
Just in general from the surgery itself.
Oh, so before it levels out and sort of becomes the new you, is that what? So about 65% of your excess.
Yeah, and that's over 12 to 18 months.
Okay, yeah, cool. All right. So did the dietitian follow you for the aftercare? That's where we were before I jumped
so
in.
sorry, I am just sort of going off on my own tangents
that's okay.
here. So the dietitian followed up, I think it was like 2 weeks after surgery, then 3 months, then 6 months, and then I'll have another one once I hit 12 months. And so basically the dietitian's on hand at all times. I've got her number and her email. So if I'm ever concerned, I can always reach out. But even if I don't, we've got regular appointments just to make sure that I'm still on the right track. I'm still meeting goals, and I still know what I'm doing moving forward.
And that's actually a quite important point because, as you know, I try not to delve into, I don't give advice out on stuff that isn't my field. But I've asked you about the diet stuff before. How much were you educated about that? Because that was something you said wasn't very good beforehand. Did the dietitian actually teach you about it, or did they just give you resources to it?
No, she definitely taught me about it, and she sort of explained how a lot of it works. And things like a calorie deficit, I just thought calories were just bullshit numbers that people threw at you, and it just had some tangible result to, if more calories is more unhealthy.
No, unfortunately, some people are just throwing bullshit numbers out there, but we don't need. Yeah, right, cool. So she actually got into giving you the downs of, obviously you mentioned macros before, so I assume she has taught you what a macronutrient is and all that sort of stuff as well, which is pretty cool. So she did guide you through a nutritional knowledge journey as well. It wasn't just here's a plan, read this, eat these meals.
Yeah, exactly. And she took into account the fact that I'm vegan as well. So she didn't try and say, all right, well, you've got to have 12 steaks a day and call that good. She like really worked around like my dietary restrictions and, you know, came up with ideas and things that we can do like moving forward. And
that's cool. That sounds like you got a good person on the team there. And how regularly did you see a doctor throughout this all as well? Like, or the surgeon, or what was the follow-up in that case?
So the surgeon's pretty much the same deal. So he checked in on me every day while I was in hospital. And then after I'd left hospital, there was a follow-up at 3 months, 6 months, and then obviously there'll be another 12-month one. But obviously, again, like the dietitian, he's on hand at any point in time. If I had any kind of complications or issues, which my wife conveniently did. And so, yeah, he definitely was on hand if we needed him. I just happened to have the really streamlined, fantastic journey, and she didn't.
Which can happen. I mean, surgery is surgery. That's what happens with human beings. All right, well, we won't delve into that because that is her story, and we'll allow her to keep it to herself or not. So there, obviously we were touching on, but I'm not really good at the self-promotion side. So there was an activity level requirement that was part of your aftercare that you were sort of told would be necessary.
Yeah, to some degree. So basically they said, you know, you can implement activity and things like that, or, you know, you need to make sure you are exercising for better results, but it's sort of just left at that. And that's obviously because not everyone is trying to become, you know, super fit. Some people just want to lose a bit of excess weight. You know, everyone's goals are different. So they sort of just basically leave it with you. They're like, you know, exercise will definitely help. And if you want that,
that's probably good actually that way. So like you're being told there are only positives to be gained from there, but we'll leave it in the hands of someone who can actually guide you with what you actually want out of it. And I think that is good for a number of reasons. There's a lot of emphasis in just the fitness world and media in general People like The Rock, and they're like, yeah, get up at 4 a.m. and smash out an hour workout and then go eat 6 meals a day. And it's like, all right, but what if you're a human with like 3 kids and 2 jobs and you just want to like keep up with everything?
Yeah.
Or what if you're a vegan who sits down most of the day and you've had surgery and you don't really have a love of fitness or anything like that? Like, how can you still take care of yourself from an activity level point of view? So it's good that they left that in somebody else's hands. And, you know, I was lucky enough to put my hand up and, you know, privileged enough to be accepted as part of your journey, which has been wonderful. But yeah, so our focus, if you don't mind me taking a little floor there for a moment, was mostly just educating you about exercise, because you hadn't really participated in much at all throughout life, and how it can be done from home. Because also going through a lot of this during COVID, and most people are not overly excited about the gym if they're not super into exercise, which you guys expressed pretty quickly. You're like, that's probably not an environment for you, which is fine. And I get that. And it's part of why I run a private situation, because I like that. I like working with people who are sort of like that. And yeah. So our focus was on how we could maintain as much of your muscle as possible post-surgery, because your calories are so low. That was one of the first things we had a big talk about. And I'm sure someone along the medical lines mentioned it as well. No matter what activity you do, you should do like a minimum amount per day, even if it's not formalized exercise. Because if you are eating low calories, you're going to lose weight. Extremely low calories, you're going to lose a lot of weight. And unfortunately, not all of that is going to be the adipose tissue, the fat that you want to lose. Some of it is going to be some muscle. The unfortunate reality is, if you don't take up some form of exercise or some form of activity, I don't care what it is, you could get to the end of this weight loss period and be feeling very weak, very lethargic, because your muscle mass has become so low that getting off the couch is really, really challenging. And that was, so our goal wasn't to make you super excited about benching 200. Our goal was just to be like, hey, let's make sure that you never have that experience of not wanting to get off the couch. Let's make sure that you can do everything, but also that it doesn't become too horrible a chore. And you've taken off on your own now these days, which is great. Like we had a plan in the program and you ran through that. We checked in, and that's been really fun. And these days you've taken off and you've found ways to implement it in your daily life between IT and Twitch streaming and all your hobbies, which is what anyone could want for someone who wants to live in a, like, that is job done. And I know a lot of PTs go, no, I want to take them to competition level, or I want them to, you know, strive out on Instagram inspiration journeys. But if you learned what you needed from it and you're living a better, happier life, that's success. So
yeah, absolutely.
That was really, really cool. Do you want to tell us what you do these days and what has changed in your outlook towards exercise? Because I think that's the best way that I'm comfortable doing it.
Yeah, sure. So I guess, you know, it did all start, like you said, I'm not a gym goer. I never have been, never will be, really. Like, I don't have an issue with like the equipment or anything like that, but being a bigger dude, going into a gym is like, I don't know, fear central, right? You know, like,
yeah.
How many TikToks have you seen where it's some guy filming a fat dude on a treadmill and everyone's laughing in the comments? Like, ain't no one want that. And so, you know, gym is just, want no part of it. And so I spoke to you about it. You came up with a routine for me, and I went with that. And at first it was, you know, I just set out a block just like you'd written up, and I would took 30 minutes an hour or something. And then I mixed that in with like just normal, like going for walks with the dog and stuff like that. And then over time, I was like, well, I don't want to just block out a period of time. I want to just, you know, have it done just throughout my day. I have a weird thing about efficiency and trying to minimize my downtime of things I enjoy doing. So yeah, what I ended up doing was I moved to, like, because I'm in IT, I work remotely, you know, I'll get off a call with a customer. I'm like, all right, I'll do a couple of sets of squats, or I'll do some hip thrusts. And I'm still loosely following the routine that you've given me, but I'm doing increased reps, and I'm doing it spread throughout the day. And so that's sort of where it's changed for me mostly. And then beyond that, I also use it as a, I guess, motivator. So like if I have because I weigh myself weekly, if I have a week that I haven't weighed myself, or I've weighed myself and I haven't got results I'm happy with, I might have gained a couple of 100 grams or something like that, or I may have only lost a little bit and I'm feeling a bit down about it. I'll just increase my amount of reps, and it makes me it might not be the healthiest mindset, but it really helps me feel like I'm taking control of it. I haven't met a goal that I wanted to get, so I'm going to push myself a little bit further until I feel like I'm motivating myself a bit more.
Yeah, I don't know about whether it's healthiest or unhealthiest mindset. I'll leave that up to the psychs. What I would say is that you made your fitness journey your own, and I think what I think is most disappointing is people have this expectation that they'll see a trainer and get a six pack and do this and do that and do this, and they forget that training is just a tool to live your life better, and it should eventually fit in with your life. Now, for some of us, that does mean 4 1-hour sessions a week in the gym. For other people, it means going for a run with the dog. And for other people, it means, you know what, I'm going to get up from my desk and do some movement. And that's great. Like, you got to find the thing that attaches to you. Now, if you have a health concern, it does take a bit of structure for a while and some very specific recommendations and things you got to do. Yes, that's a different case, right? So that's more, your ex-phys and physio's world. But if, you just want to introduce fitness in some capacity to your life, then it should be something you get to work together with the clients with, which is one of my favorite things working with you guys. And that's been such a cool thing to be part of, because now you're still doing IT, but you're more active in life, and that's the job.
Yeah.
So that's been really, really cool. And I love that you've taken off, and the education side. So that was one thing you really absorbed. And you mentioned before that you do like to do it with like the aftercare and stuff, like you read everything back to back and you're making sure you get it, but you absorb everything I threw at you. Every little bit of collect this data, learn how to track difficulty, learn how to track reps and sets, and the evenness of your workout. So you mentioned that you're doing, squats between things, and then you're doing hip thrusts. So you are hitting both sides, which is just, it's really cool. And I'm just, so proud to have been a part of it. But I do love, and I just love the example that you get to set there of, you went down this route and you did this and you implemented some level of fitness in your life and activity, and now you get to all the time, and it's obtainable and you can reach for it all the time, which is really cool. You don't need $80 a week gym membership or whatever the hell they're up to now. Like, you can, you can just be active in life and, hopefully avoid some injuries, take care of your heart and everything else. And as you said, even use it to manipulate your weight to a degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is pretty cool. So moving forward, what does everything look like for you, and not just fitness related, in terms of your health post-surgery? Where you've still got a 12-month appointment to meet with your surgeon?
Yeah, I do. So there is actually some interesting things I should mention. Before having the surgery, there was a blood test that I had to have done. And the blood test...
Oh, cool. I love data.
Yeah. So my blood test said that I was super low on vitamin D, I think it was, and my parathyroid was through the roof. And the reason that was, or at least this is what my doctor believes, was because I was so deficient in vitamin D because of poor nutrients and the fact that I am a hermit who lives inside. I was really low on that. And so it was, my parathyroid was using the calcium to try and populate in vitamin D. And because of that, all my levels were really out of whack. And I was also pre-diabetic, diabetic.
Yeah.
As of my blood test at my 6-month appointment, so about 4 months ago, everything was 100% normal.
Yeah,
And
right. So all within normal range of what the doctors would consider not at risk and all that sort of stuff, which is pretty
absolutely.
cool. And would you say that, just out of curiosity, because vitamin D is sunlight, essentially, have you upped your outsideness, or is outsideness? I love it. Have you? Do you think that that's had a deciding factor there, or do you just think the fact that you're lighter and you're making conscious efforts to be active and all that sort of stuff, and just maybe the food you're eating and not having your body be so starved for?
Yeah, I would say that it's partly nutrition, because I'm definitely not spending more time outside. It's not that, like, I'm still a reclusive hermit, but like,
We all are right now. So it's not
well,
really
yeah, that's true. But like, yeah, I always thought that I hit, what is it? It's like a recommendation of 15 minutes in sunlight every day or something like that.
Yeah, it's a lot of those ones like 10,000 steps, those many, they're so generalized that most of their meaning is lost, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I was pretty sure I was hitting that before, and I don't think I've extended it all that much since,
Yep.
but the numbers have completely corrected
Yeah.
after
So, I mean, there's
surgery.
a number of things that could have occurred there. I mean, just eating better in general will make a huge difference. And just more consciously aware of things. And maybe you are outside more, maybe you're not, but maybe your body's better at processing the vitamin D you do take in now, because, adipose tissue is quite the strain on the body.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. It's one of those things that's going to be hard to pinpoint because so much changed all at once, and now we just know the results are good. So yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right. Well, so before we get to anything interesting or any advice that you would wish you had heard or anything like that, would you say it was all a success and it ran the way you would like? I know your wife had a hiccup, but yeah, what do you think?
For me, absolutely. Like, there's issues, but at the end of the day, like I mentioned earlier on, like, I'm 52 kilos down, weighing 136.6. Like, that's nearly half my body weight that I'd lost. Like, like, that's a good amount of weight. I'm also not done losing. Like, I still have intentions to keep losing weight. I have muscles that I never knew existed now. So, it's all good. Like, yeah.
Oh, that's great. All right. So, do you have advice or recommendations on anyone who's considering this in life?
Advice. I guess the big thing is, don't be scared off it, just because it's a surgery or anything. But also, one of the biggest things that I see, because I am in a few groups for weight loss surgery and stuff like that, is remember that it's a tool. It is not a solution. So if you do go in there to get the surgery done, you go through it, just remember that there is hard work, there's dieting. It's not just you have the surgery and magically that weight's falling off. There will be work involved, but if you are dedicated, then you can see results.
Cool. I suppose the only other questions I got before I'll let you just, anything else you think is really important for people to hear. Things like mood, how did you find that ran? Because I imagine there are some people out there who go, well, when I don't eat for a certain amount of time, I'm hungry. If you're going to drop my calories by all that much at once, I'm going to be a problem. How did you find anything like that? Did you find your body kept up with that, or did you have some issues?
Yeah, so it's pretty interesting how the surgery works. Like, early on, for say the first 2 weeks, super lethargic. And that's not just the surgery, it's the fact that I was consuming like maybe 500 calories in a day because it's all liquids. Like,
Yeah,
what
that's a
am I
minor
going to do?
snack.
Yeah, so because of that, you're just super lethargic. But once I started to get real food in me, I was fine. As for hunger, it does vary from person to person, but at least for the first couple of weeks to a couple of months, you will nearly have no hunger drive at all.
Right. That's
There's
important.
something to do with the surgery. the removal of the part of the stomach does adjust this, like the hormone that makes you hungry.
Leptin, I think, but
No,
I don't want to be quoted on getting it wrong, so
yeah,
cut it out.
So yeah, it apparently affects that hormone, and so you have a lot less drive to be hungry. And the thing is, because it's reducing the overall size of your stomach, you are full a lot sooner. And like, as for an example, today, like I have these little vegan chicken nuggets that I had for lunch. I had 5, and I was so full that I nearly spewed. So that sort of gives you an example of like, it just drastically reduces your portions. And the moment you hit the point where your stomach is full, you know about it. Like, you don't think about it at first because you're like, oh, I'm just eating like normal. But
Yep.
once you hit that point, you know about it with this surgery. Like it, there's a very common thing that a lot of people have when it's early on. You reach a point and it all comes back up. And that's because you've only got about a liter capacity after surgery. And so you try and eat a normal full-size meal in the time that you normally would, and you don't have room, and it's coming all back up. And the first time you experience that, you learn a lot about listening to your stomach. And so, yeah, as far as like, because of all of that, it doesn't really affect your mood because your body eventually starts to adjust, and you start to understand when you're full, when you're hungry, and you're still getting everything that your body requires as far as it's concerned. So as long as your nutrients are on point and everything, your mood's about as good as it would be, any other time. I can't say that it's necessarily like before surgery, because I probably have a fair bit more energy and I'm a little bit more upbeat. But yeah, like for the most part, it's, as good as it was pre-surgery, if not better.
Yeah, cool. All right, man. Well, thank you for that. Any other points you think are necessary, or anything I might have missed? I think, what was I going to say? Yeah, I don't know. Anything you think should be added?
Not really. I think we pretty much covered off on everything. One thing I always want to make sure is just that everyone remembers that it's not easy and it's not a tool. I just need to reiterate that.
It is a tool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So from my interpretation and just being on the outside, and feel free to just tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. It's your experience. What it essentially does cause is an incredibly fast track version of weight loss with a few more forceful barriers to keep you on track.
Pretty much.
From what I'm from everything you've said, and having been part of lots of people's journeys throughout these similar things, that's what it seems to be to me. Like you're still having to do all of the same work. You still have to learn how to eat correctly. You still are going to have to do all that nutritional knowledge stuff is going to have to be shoved into your head. All of the activity level stuff, it doesn't necessarily have to be weight training, but you had to learn something and have it shoved in your head. And then you had to implement it in your life and all that stuff. And there are barriers along the way. Like you said, you simply can't eat too much. You just vomit.
Yep.
So, there are reasons that you're going to stay on track. And then the mood adjustment seems to be a bit more sudden, because instead of having a not so full tank, as I'm going to lazily refer to it as, and just trying to ignore those hormones, they are actually all way lower because the tank is still full. It's just a much smaller tank. But essentially, people need to be aware that it is a tool to be used and not to be scared of. It's an option that you can take. But you are still doing all the same work as a fitness journey. This is not the lazy, easy way out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or not a fitness journey, a weight loss journey, I should say. Sorry.
Yeah, well, it's one and the same, right? Like, at the end of the day, it all comes down to the same thing. But yeah, like I have seen other people's discussions where the surgery's failed for them. And the reason is quite often they either haven't engaged with any form of exercise, or they, like, you might have a small stomach, but if you fill that small stomach with trash, that's not going to help you, yeah, you might be able to eat a whole roll of Oreos, but that doesn't mean that's healthy.
You're gonna feel pretty tired after that, I think, if that's all you're eating.
Yeah, exactly. But like, yeah, that's sort of the way that you can make it fail, even with those barriers, is when you're ignoring, going with healthier options to still just eat garbage in a smaller portion. And like your stomach does stretch eventually over time. It will for everyone, but it won't stretch as much if you're not stuffing it constantly, and if you're not stuffing it with garbage, it'll hold up a lot better. And yeah, so it can fail and you can make it fail, but it's one of those things that you've definitely got to stick on top of.
Oh, cool, man. All right. Well, do you have any final points for us, or can I let you get on with your evening?
I think we're all good, man. I think we're
Oh,
all good.
cool. Well, thank you so much for having this chat with me and coming on, and yeah, letting me be part of your journey as well. It's been so much fun and really cool to just have someone so engaging.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you, and like, thanks for all your help. It was fun having a chat about this, and yeah.
Awesome, man. Well, I will chat to you very soon.
All right, have a good one, man.